Let me get this up here. And we are, maybe. It's saying we're live. Hey, there we are. What is going on? I'm going to hide you, Dan, because people don't need to see you yet. All right. Well, it is 2 o'clock. It is the start of the first ever ADHD Agents. I am Bill, and
I'm Phil.
That side. He's over there. There we go. We will figure this out. Welcome anyone who is here in the live stream. Shoot us a comment. Let us know where you are coming from. And while we're getting started, just kind of let you guys know a little bit kind of where this all came about. Within our brokerage, Real Brokerage, we started a group for neurodivergent agents, ADHD and all of that other stuff, and had such a great response. I talked to Phil and I was like, hey, we need to do something more. We need to help this community out because there's nothing for us. The National Association of Realtors, no resources for us. So what did we do? We're creating it. And that's why we're here. Personally, I was diagnosed about 2 years ago, 2 days before my 41st birthday. So that was pretty scary that late in life. And Phil, you?
Diagnosed in April of this year. So
okay.
At 49 years old. Awesome.
So here we are kind of putting stuff together. I do have a little disclaimer before we get started here. We're not medical professionals. We just play them on TV. Anything said here is just our thoughts and opinions. And this is being live streamed. So please don't share any personal information or stories that you don't want out there in the public for everyone to see. So welcome. We have Kim from here in Charleston, Northern Virginia, Ginny, Katie, Brittany, Stephanie. Welcome, everybody. Let's get this started. I'm going to introduce our guest because I'm super excited. I've known him for a few years. Phil just met him recently. His name is Dan Pacheco from Orlando. I met Dan back in our previous brokerage, previous life. Dan helps agents build their brand and their marketing in unconventional, outside the box ways. I'm going to bring him on here and I'm going to tell a little story here. There's Dan. Hey, Dan.
What's up,
how are
you? Hello from Orlando.
So a little story about Dan to kind of sum up who he is and what he does. I remember talking to him one day and he tells me this story that he's teaching his agents in his office how to do things and they're being wildly successful. No one knows why, because Dan has never sold a home in his entire life. So another brokerage sends someone to one of his trainings to spy on him. My camera's out of focus. To spy on him and see what he's doing and reports back to their broker. And they wrote a review of you or something. And it was like, he is very dangerous. He is teaching unconventional ways. And then it ended, and they misspelled his name, and it said Dan Panchenko must be stopped.
Yep.
And it was from that moment on that I was like, he is doing something correct. If the traditionalists think that he must be stopped because he's never sold a home and he's teaching people to do what they enjoy, which is how our brains work, to succeed, he needs to be our first guest. And so here we are.
That I feel so special because that was like when you and I first really bonded. Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember putting that review because the full review was Dan Panchenko foolishly told our agents that you do not have to make cold calls to be successful in real estate. Clearly, he has no idea what he's talking about. Therefore, he must be stopped. Right. And so I put that out there as my very, very first 0-star review. And as ADHDers go, sometimes the negativity or rejection does sting a bit more. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit here. But that one felt good. That one felt really, really effing good. And so I posted it online. And then, of course, Bill Olson, being the magical sage that he is, he did this awesome graphic. It was like the Sex Pistols cover, the Queen got to the Queen. He took my headshot and did like the ransom letters over my eyes and my mouth. And it says, Dan Pacheco must be stopped. And Bill, I mean, you saw kind of how that spread like wildfire, right? I took that graphic you made And that was my new business card back when, I did the print stuff. That was one side of it. And then the other side was just that quote and my phone number to be compliant in the logo, right? And that was it. And that thing took on storm. I saw it written literally as graffiti and Sharpie, like at conventions on the little Sharpie dream boards, like, what do you want to be aspired to? I saw that shit written everywhere. It was written on chalkboards out in places. People made T-shirts about it. And that let me know that I belong, So thank you for helping be a part of that. And obviously for both of you for letting me be on your very first episode. I think what will be a very, very profound podcast you have going on here.
Excited to have you. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's kind of get this started with, so you've got ADHD like us, and how the main purpose is, how can people kind of tap into inner self, do what makes them happy? Like, let's go through your process a little bit on how do you help people like find your thing, find their thing.
So speaking on the outside of the neurodivergent community, everyone has a thing. Everyone obviously has their own edge, because there's no way that I can be Bill, there's no way that I can be Phil, there's no way that Phil can be Bill, and so on and so forth, right? But in this industry, especially in the fringe industries too, title, lending, everything that's involved in our greater ecosphere here, it's a popular belief that you have to strip away all the interesting parts and, kind of make yourself this diluted little, 12-ounce version of what a realtor is. And if you're to ask a lot of agents, at least here in Orlando, and I'm sure up there in your neck of the woods, why should I work with you? And they always say, well, I'm passionate, I'm dedicated, and I love to serve. And that's not really. I know a lot of people that really aren't those things. They're not. I mean, not to mention passionate and dedicated. I would just take that for granted. I would hope that you were passionate and dedicated to your craft, how you make your income, kind of thing, right? So that intrigued me in understanding, of course, that every agent is their own small business, whether they understand that or treat it so or not. And so knowing that I was, again, kind of from the feral distance of the industry, like Bill said, I had never sold real estate. I took the job to be in real estate leadership without even having been licensed yet. I failed the test 3 times. And then finally I got it because I had to keep my job. But I never did anything with it. I let it expire as soon as I could. Because honestly, I found it irrelevant to what I was doing, because we had a broker that was in touch. We had, the TCs, we had all of the parts that, were there, and you didn't need me to regurgitate or recycle or echo, how to fill out a contract. You have a broker. So I said, what can I really do here? Let me be me, not what somebody else is. If they're inviting me to the table, they must want me to sit down. So I sat down, and then I stood up real quick. And everyone has those interesting things, and real estate is one of the most magical industries on planet Earth, because just about everyone needs what you all sell: shelter and space. So if you're into gator wrestling, crocheting, I don't know, gothic stuff, I don't care, I don't know, man, I don't know your life, right? Be that in your business deliberately, and and with a plan. But guess what? Fellow gator wrestlers need places to live. Crochet artisans, I don't know what to call them, correctly here, but those that are interested in the art of crochet need places to live too. So when you can start kind of dosing, more of those interesting things about you, you become someone that they connect with instantaneously. And if you're being strategic with your content, your brand positioning and brand identity, then it's much easier for me to, kind of start liking you and trusting you over your recommendation of the coolest gym or the best natural park or whatever your thing is. It's easier to connect through that than it is about buying, selling, or investing. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it starts, and that's what I've been doing ever since. It just kind of kept scaling upwards and upwards and upwards and upwards.
Awesome. Thank you. I watched something today while researching for this because I was getting nervous. And I wrote this down because it really fits what you do when you said, like, you don't have to cold call. You really don't have to step out of your comfort zone to grow. And on this one video, it talked about the golden rule, do unto others, blah, blah, blah. And we don't like putting pressure on others because we don't like pressure on ourselves.
That's a great point. I can resonate with that.
I listened to it like a couple more times. And I was like, no, this is exactly what Dan teaches. Like, cold calling is, you're putting pressure on other people. I don't like putting pressure on myself. I don't like have pressure on me. So I don't like to do that. So you teach people how to, it's not salesy and it's not pressure. It's that it is that building relationships that everyone talks about, but the way we do it.
Right. And, it's not just, sending pies around Thanksgiving time and, sending a little, Popeye. It's much deeper than that. Right. And so when you can really, again, start resonating with these people, I mean, for instance, let's just pretend that, the three of us are not in anything related to real estate. We're going to be, the general population out there. And we're in our comfy pants at home, whether, Bill's wearing his yoga pants or Phil's wearing no pants or whatever your comfy pants are at home. Right. Put yourself there. And when you get a phone call coming from an unknown number, are we prone to answering it? And the answer is hell no, right? And if we, hear a on the front door, even if we ordered Uber Eats, we're waiting for their butt to get back into their car before we go pick it up because we don't want to see anyone at our doorstep, right? And then, guys, let me just ask you this. This is a vulnerable and safe place here, right? How many digits are in that little red circle above your email icon on your phone or your laptop? Mine's it has a plus sign next to it. It says 99 plus, but it's several thousand that are probably not seen. My point with all this is that's the life of the average person. So when we put on our little real estate britches and we go into the office, or log into the cloud, whatever whoever you're with, what happens to our minds to where now we're saying, well, it's all about the cold call, smile and dial, and go door knock. You better have calluses, and then here's this amazing email drip campaign. Now, I mean, those things can work, but maybe it's I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this, before we got on. Maybe it's an ADHD superpower to kind of sniff out the disingenuous, tactics like that. Because to me, it's really obvious when someone's scripting me. I mean, I know for sure. I was even able to spot someone chat GPTing me. Like, this person the other day was, they sent me a response to some of the branding that I did, and I'm like, dog, I mean, you I don't think you know those words. Like this, and some of this in here is not at all pertinent to what we're talking about. And I asked them, like, are you using ChatGPT? And they're like, yeah, I'm trying out for the first time. I'm at a convention. I'm like, okay, it's really easy to see that, right? And so we have to understand too that it's not just brand versus brand or agent versus agent. It's human versus the robot now. And these people are actively seeking out these .com iBuyer kind of scenarios, platforms, and they know it now. They're at first they probably didn't know, what it cost or that they would have to pay more in other, some other column or something like that. But by now they do, and they're happy to pay for it because they don't have to deal with that slickster, snake oil salesperson kind of thing that you see so much in real estate or has been in so much in real estate. And so that's what I really try to focus on is helping people kind of meet people where they are and to fly that freak flag. And again, we'll get into that and really what that means, I'm sure, in a minute here. But the public's smarter than we treat them, and it's unfair when we, treat them like they're not, And so that's my firm belief on that subject right now.
I think it's important just to be just be yourself, be your undeniably, unapologetically you. And I think for me anyway, I end up attracting more people that are fun to work with, and that that are easier to work with because they're not so uptight or just a drag. We all have those clients that are like, oh man, I just can't wait till this transaction closes so we can just move on. But it's about building a relationship and enjoying being in their presence and them being in yours, and then being able to cultivate that into a lifelong relationship where they're going to refer you out, and
I think that's wildly important. That's so important, especially with those that are neurodivergent, because again, we process things differently. It's I never really understood the whole idea of business and isn't personal. To me, it is. Especially when you're in the independent side of things, or when you're an agent or your own small business owner. If you're a creative, especially, what you do is it does come from inside. It's like exhuming an organ from you and saying, "This is what my heart looks like," kind of thing. And so that rejection does sting a lot more, and it can trigger further depression. It can trigger anger. It can trigger imposter syndrome. All these negative things that can prevent us from, one, enjoying ourselves and enjoying our life, and then two, really having a productive and impactful business. And so these are the things, I think that is so important about this podcast and this platform that you all created, is that now we can talk about that stuff because, I mean, and Phil, you and I were talking about this in the warm-up call a few days ago. Real estate's I think the most conflicted industry on planet Earth. And it's because, internally, depending on what side of the deal you're on, we could be describing this house as, quaint and, cozy, or way too effing small, right? Kind of thing. So internal conflict now meets external conflict because I'm working the deal across from another agent. And even though, hey, we're buddies, we soaked it up at the bar last night, we're having a good time. Oh, but Bill or Phil, I'm so sorry, you are now on the other side of the deal, and I've got to negotiate like a son of a gun, and and stick it to you guys, and you guys are going to try to stick it to me. And so all this internal conflict meets external conflict, and then that's even more compounded by all the posturing out there. Home Snap, is handing out awards like they're their Pez, and how many glass certificates or little paper certificates rather, or glass sculptures can I put on my desk because I'm the rising star and my real producers or some crap like that, right? So all this stuff makes us, those that aren't getting that saying, damn, I didn't make 600 phone calls today. Shoot, I only have 200 followers on Instagram, or damn, I'm not even on Instagram yet, right? Do I belong here? I don't know how to dance on TikTok. All these things that we feel like we have to do. It's silly, but at the end, it's not silly because it does really impact people in a negative way. And that, I love being a part of the solution to that. It does go in deep places, and we do. There are tears sometimes. There's a lot of frustration, on the inbound. But when we're able to kind of work through things, I love it when I'm getting a text or a call or a message or whatever it is saying, "Hey Dan, I just got an $800,000 lead from Instagram because they responded to my brand that you helped me create." Right. So shout out to Carly Rucker. Bill, you're aware of her. Phil, you should get to know her sometime soon. But she's the Enchanted Agent, and she was a total newbie. She was freshly licensed when she and I met, and she stands for local beer drinking, live music, and Disney. And so that's what we incorporated into her brand. It's the Enchanted Agent. Everything has that touch. She shows up with little pixie dust at closing. It's not just closed. It's happily ever after, the whole 9 yards. And people resonate with that. And so I love seeing these people that are kind of the oddballs and misfits that kind of find their niche, their brand, and they're finding success because guess what? It's not because of people like the three of us here. The consumer's behaving differently now too, right? I mean, they're able to sniff out that disingenuous stuff. They don't care as much about the big brokerage brand anymore. They want to know what you can do to impact their story the best ways, and then some. And that's where the magic happens when you think of the then some. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then for us, I know for me, we react to that differently. It's like how our brains are wired. That's what gives us that dopamine.
Yeah.
Whereas you have the cold call person there are a lot of just that money. But there is so much more to it, and it's talked about all the time. Like even the cold callers will say, "Well, I'm in it for the relationships." Well, then why did you just bother 600 people on Thanksgiving because you knew they would be home?
Right. Right.
That is a nightmare for us.
And if you're not a cold caller, this thing weighs 800 pounds.
Yeah. And for us, it's chasing that dopamine, which Carly, her brand, that's what she enjoys. She's incorporated it all into her brand and her marketing and how she does business. Something I shared with Dan, I want to touch on here is, so there's an account on Instagram I follow called it's Jesse Anderson, ADHD Jesse. He has a book coming out. Can't wait to get that, about adults with ADHD. But he talks about this, and I know you work this into your stuff with everyone. Whether I told you about it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I do that," but I didn't even know. It's the 4 C's of motivation.
Oh yeah.
Of captivate. You have to make it interesting. Create. You have to make it novel. Compete. You have to make it a challenge. Or complete. You have to create a sense of urgency. Otherwise, we won't do anything. But I think for you, it's that captivate and create is really the two things that you have kind of built your entire platform on.
I agree with that, and and it's when you shared that with me, like the 4 C's, I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna carry the one, look back, flashback. Holy cow! Yeah, that's it right there. That's it, and it's true because I love a challenge. I mean, I am notorious for being that. Call me a dumb dog. I'll just run as fast as I can through anything until my legs give out. Figuratively here. I love an impossible challenge because I believe that the cool stuff lies on the other side of improbable or impossible. And, I chalk that up to, again, another ADHD or neurodivergent superpower is that, yeah, I think it's possible and I can see how this works. And when I'm able to, again, help create, I love when we do something, again, so different. Obviously, it's a easy statement to make here, but I love when we do something cool, duh. But that's the hard part, is to find the cool in real estate, because you get crapped on a lot. I mean, I get crapped on a lot. And, sometimes the agents that are really more bold or gregarious with their brand, I did one that was, themed with like 90s Nicktoons and, Nintendo and Power Rangers, right? And that was perfect for him because he has got a full sleeve of, Nicktoons and, Pokemon and all this stuff. And his audience loves it. But guess what? The guy in the 4 pleats in front of his khakis, he hates it. And here's the thing, like, I don't like the idea of, fighting people and, having to defend. And I understand where they're coming from, these people, because listen, these people that are, these agents that have been in the business for 30 years, or they're a leader or a broker or something like that, right? I get where their frustration comes from, because when they got into the business, they have to spend, hundreds of dollars on the Sunday newspaper ads, right? They would spend hundreds of bucks over 6 months to get like 8 people to know who they were or to recognize them from that black and white picture in the Sunday newspaper, right? They had to print out the MLS, carrying it around with them. So they probably have, hip displacement or something imbalanced because that sucker was heavy, right? So it was a hard road for them to climb up, and be who they are and to make it into a successful, long-lasting business. I understand and bravo there. And it's really kind of annoying when, someone that just got their license, 5 months ago, has just did a live video, whatever the heck a live video is, right? A live stream. And, they got 6,000 people to know who they were for free. That would piss me off too if I was one of those people, right? But here's the deal. I've heard time and time again, oh, that Dan, he's never been in it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never paid his dues. I'm like, what dues? What dues do I need? I mean, I'm not going to pay the dues to the association because, again, I'm obviously unlicensed here. But what other dues? Where do I write a check? Do you take Venmo? What do you do? Where do I need to pay? And the answer is there are no dues to pay in real estate. It's not about the competition. It's about how you can impact those people that are out there that need what you do, right? That those people that can see, those agents that understand that those home buyers, sellers, whoever they are, they're not a transaction, right? Every single day we're used to filling out contracts and doing drawings and doing real estate, right? The average person is not, though. The average person, will do this 3 or 4 times in their life, kind of thing. It's a big deal to them, but it's not a big deal to us. It needs to be a big deal to us. That's what I'm saying.
I like it. It does. It really does. I mean, I understand where kind of both sides come from. It's difficult to be in a field where you're putting in your dues and then see somebody come in and have, I don't want to call it overnight success, but somewhat instant success. And, well, oh, wow, good for them. And, part of the, the layers of the ADHD, like for me with, and I know we touched on it last week, Dan, is having was the rejection sensitive dysphoria. And, not really never hearing of that before. Actually ADHD Jesse is where I heard, he has a YouTube video on it. Great clip. It's like, wow, I can remember back to childhood and having emotions about things, about rejection. And, of course, I get into sales where, rejection is going to be 75% of your responses, whether you're cold calling, door knocking, whatever you're doing, it's always no. And, look for the no, find your next no. But, I get both sides at the same time, to learn to be yourself and to pull those layers back and see what works really well for me, what works well for you. And, kind of go back to the original comment that I think Bill said, the golden rule. That's one of the things that attracted me so much to, real estate is, that's a moral fiber for me. It's really, other people like when you're treated, why it's not more talked about in the rest of the world is beyond me. I mean, just treat people like you want to be treated. And I like to have fun. I like to joke around. I like to harass people. I like to smile and laugh. I like to be made. I like people to make me laugh, and I like to have people like that around me in my circle and on my team, and we're gonna have a good time. And yes, we're gonna do things we don't like to do because it's just nature of the beast. You got to do some things you don't like to do sometimes, but also learning how to compartmentalize that and finding ways to be more productive. Like I remember mentioning to Dan last week, I can remember early in my career just sitting there in front of my computer looking at a list and like just being paralyzed. And this was before I was diagnosed, and just paralyzed. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't make a phone call, couldn't send an email because I didn't know which direction to go. And I think it's another huge opportunity in the real estate world is a lot of the bigger brokerages with their training. And I think there's a coach, famous coach out there that calls it Seagull training, and I've adopted that. And so they come in and they poop, give you all kind of information, but give you no direction. So you walk out of this training class, you're like, okay, I give this information. What do I do with it? Which direction do I go? What's the next step? And looking back now, realizing, those were also problems that I had to deal with as far as having ADHD and the underlying issues that comes along with it that we don't know we have because it's covered up by something else. And it's just been, like I said, it's been mind blowing, since April. And I even told Bill this in one of our first conversations. I've been on medication since April and didn't really get the realization that I had this until probably 2 or 3 months ago, maybe 2 months ago. And just, wow, it just kind of hit me and like, this is what it is. Wow. This, and it's also understanding this is part of my journey. Here I am, yes, I'm learning later in life that I have this, and looking back, I try not to ever have regrets, but like, oh, wow, what could have been different, but it doesn't matter because I'm all, I always believe we're at where we're supposed to be. I'm supposed to be here right now. And no matter what I could have done would have changed that. And, that's, I will always believe that and always have.
And I'm hyped because I this is the first time I'm seeing you, right? This is the second time I'm hearing your voice. But I mean, I'm hyped, man, that you found that out, right? And that you now realize this about yourself, and it does clear up a lot of things. Once you finally diagnosed, it does clear things up. And Kara, I think just made a comment there saying that no one ever thinks about people, with that rejection, and it's true because there's not a lot of emotion in real estate. I mean, there is a lot of emotion, but it's not a lot of, empathy. And that's such a popular hashtag in real estate, hashtag empathy, hashtag authenticity. But not many people really go beyond the hashtag with it, right? Especially in the brokerage setting. When things start to get, if the idea of, taking a shot at the, or if the idea of doing anything, right? Going on a live stream, doing video, doing social media, making cold calls, whatever it is, makes the agent want to take a shot at tequila and a Xanax before they do that. Right? Like that's probably not them. That's not for them. But so many brokers are like, no, this is how I did it, and so this is how you do it, kind of thing. And that's just becoming so much more irrelevant these days. The whole "I'll teach you how I did it" kind of thing, right? I can't stand these real estate coaches that I see on Instagram that are in the selfie and they have a little, backwards hat and they're in a, some, walking their dog or some crap. Or I'm going to teach you how I made 6 figures in 2 months by flipping houses. I want to give you my program, $97, all this stuff, right? I'm like, brother, like that could be maybe a conversation over some, some cold press or whatever you want to make it. But I don't want to learn from you and how you did it. I want to know how I can do it. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of real estate leadership being challenged and running their head into the wall and losing out. They're losing agent, they're losing production, they're losing, relevance because they're not creative enough to say, what I learned and built my business up 45 years ago, or even 15 years ago, right? Maybe there's other ways to do it, and of course there are, but I challenge all real estate leadership out there to really understand their place. Like, they're not the boss. Brokers are not the boss, okay? The brokerage is hired by the agent, okay? The brokerage does not hire the agent. It's the other way around. So when the broker, their leadership team, they need to be the front desk hotel manager at the Four Seasons or whatever, correlates to their brokerage, right? So when I check in, I want to be greeted happily, right? I want to know that everything that I'm paying them good money to do is set for me. I want to make sure that my room's clean. I have, all the key cards I need. I want to have my Wi-Fi. And if I book sunrise yoga, and I do it for the next morning, but you know what? The night before I have too many Mai Tais, I am not expecting a phone call, at 7 a.m. from the hotel manager saying, Dan, where are you? You booked the sunrise yoga package, and you didn't make it today. Where the hell are you? I'm like, oh, who? But a lot of times, right? That's synonymous to how the broker treats the agents. They don't show up at the meeting and so on and so forth. They're not the employee. And so I think the agent needs to understand that they are the business owner that has hired their brokerage to develop and incubate their business in their ways. And if the broker's not cutting it, not willing to see it, then I do encourage them to go someplace else, honestly. Because that when you put yourself in these, kind of toxic environments, and brokerages can very easily be one of those for neurodivergent or really anybody, right? If your broker isn't, or your team leader, whoever you look up to, if you're not supported by those that understand that and saying, no, I'm not doing this because it really F's with me, man. It really F's with me. They need to understand that and have the bandwidth to say, okay, all right, well, let's, talk to me about, what gets you going? What do you enjoy doing? Are you someone that loves being in front of a room, or does that, make you want to, go into a ball? There's a billion ways to do real estate. There really are. We just need to understand that. And we need to start talking about there being more neurodivergent people that are out there, especially in real estate, because, we're always having these, veneer, fake smiles, or even like the God-forsaken AI headshots. And if you're listening to this or watching this and you have one, I love you still, right? But you can't say you're authentic if you're using ChatGPT and AI for all of your stuff. You just can't, okay? But when you have that out there, actually, I just lost my train of thought. How ADHD of me. They'll take it over, but it's somewhere along those lines. I'm trying to think about your comfort zone being a superpower. That's what it is. Your comfort zone is your superpower, right? So when I'm comfortable, the entire room hears it, smells it, feels it, tastes it, right? And I'm comfortable in settings like this. I'm on tour right now throughout the country, doing different classes around, all the real estate stuff. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I hate making cold calls though, and I hate doing, awkward sell things. So my strength is what I just mentioned. But here's the deal. If I'm not comfortable, guess what? The entire room still hears it, smells it, feels it, and tastes it. In an industry that's predicated on communication, trust. Why do you want to show up trembling and, kind of showing up disingenuous in that way? We have to see things differently.
So going off of that, so YouTube is my thing. Like when I started it, kind of went into that hyper focus thing, and I still do, to a fault of, okay, I enjoy this. It's constantly changing. I'm constantly learning. So that's kind of where I found my thing. And I had a broker, if she's watching this, I still love you, but she would constantly be like, well, why don't you try this with your videos? Why don't you try this with your videos? It's like, how many classes have you taken on this? Have you ever done that? I'm the one hyper focusing on it. So I found what I enjoyed because I was able to focus on it. And people were telling me, don't do this because it would take me 10 hours for a 10-minute video. But I kept my head down. I was like, no, I enjoy it. And it took me longer because I'm constantly figuring more stuff out in the middle of it. That's what we do. We get distracted, but I stayed distracted within the YouTube space for the most part, most of the time. And that was my thing. I was, if cold calling is your thing, that's fine. I don't want to say ADHDers can't cold call it. You may, that may be your thing.
Yep.
And you're gonna, if you can focus on it and you enjoy it, then do it. If you want to dance on TikTok and focus on it and do it, if that's what brings you joy, I know people who get a ton of business from it.
Yeah, totally.
And so do that. Just, find, like you said, find a support group that supports your crazy ideas and just kind of lets you go with it. Because the second that a little thing of negative doubt from anyone, and it usually comes from the people that do love you and want to see you succeed, and they're coming from a good place, can send you into that rumination.
Protection.
Right. Right. Oh, not even just protecting, that's part of it, but they may say like, well, just do it. Like, to me, like, that could hurt on the inside. Like, I'm like, I can't just do it. And then some people just don't get that. They're like, if you just do it, it would be done. I'm like, but then I would have to do it. And, just do it at your own pace. I got this. Let me find this here. This is called the Anti-Planner, which is absolutely, it is amazing. It's set up into like different categories. Like if you're stuck, overwhelmed, unmotivated, disorganized, discouraged, you just kind of flip to it and it gives you like a little trick or tool to help you get through it. But the first page says, let me start off by saying one thing. Your worth is not measured in productivity. Like, did you read that? I feel like you may have skimmed over it fast. I want to make sure it really sinks in. And it says it again. Your worth is not measured in productivity.
But we treat it like it does so often.
Right. I mean, there's days where I get nothing done and I feel like I had like the busiest work day. But then I look back at it and I was like, I barely got anything done. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to need a new job. And then the next day I'm like, I'm fine. You just kind of get in, sometimes you just have to call it a day. I'm not going to lie.
And I think while others would look at that as being like, well, how are you going to get things done? Don't you have kids? Where's your accountability coach? You probably need one, right? But I think it's actually a thing of maturity when you can say, you know what, things are taken care of financially at home, and today it's just not happening for me, and let me just check out a little early, and then let me restore. And that's one thing. And I don't like to have like philosophies or mantras that rhyme, because I feel like everyone does, and they're always forced, right? Like for instance, if you list, you last. You don't, you won't. That's bull crap, because I work with a $60 million agent that is a buyer's agent, right? I think she did 2 listings last year and did $60 million by herself. She's fine as a buyer's agent, right? But one that does kind of rhyme here is, it's not about being more. It's about the idea of restoring, right? Not be more. It's restore. Because we're always in this, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins era, and walk on the fire, 10x your business, all these things. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I even want to 10x my business, what if it's like, whatever it may be. But the more, if that's your goal, is you're never going to reach it, because by definition, you're never going to, it's always more, right? So I like the idea of restoring. And Phil, I told you this, I think when we were on the exit of our call, everyone feels very comfortable, and your family's used to it, with you opening your laptop, on a Saturday or Sunday kind of thing, right, during family time. But it feels really, really dirty to go to a movie on a Monday or Tuesday afternoon. And why is that? It's because we look at, business so much, and it takes precedence and priority. And we justify it, saying, well, this is how I provide for my family, right? But also, what about the other parts that you need to provide for yourself, your friends, your relationships, whatever it may be, right? Those are the things that we need to start looking at more so. And we measure that, I've got this awesome business planning thing, and it's called The Everything, because it does take care of everything. It's not just business. Yes, we do talk about it, and it is built for ADHDers, neurodivergent, or just people that just want something cool and different and specific to them. But that's like the last half of it. The first half of it is taking inventory about all these other things about your business, because again, we've heard the idea, well, we sell homes, but really the first thing we do is we sell ourselves. And I can go along with that. I'm like, all right, gee, I got you. I like that idea. But if that's the case, imagine yourself as a brick and mortar shop, right? Are the lights on? Are the doors unlocked on time every morning? Is the music playing? Are the shelves stocked? Most of the time, because in this industry, we're encouraged to work, 90 hours a day, 100 days a week kind of thing, and answer your phone call all around the clock and all this stuff to be a 5-star agent. Because you're doing those things, you're diluting yourself. You're dimming your light, and, the doors, they might be locked. The lights aren't on. The shelves are, empty, and there's some raccoons running around in the back, right? That's a lot of agents that I know, and that's no fault to them. It's because they've gone on with the flow of what traditional real estate looks like, or running your own business. And you do have control over things. I always say it's that double-edged sword. It's the curse and the blessing is, yeah, I do run my own business and I can set my schedule. Question is, are you doing, what are you doing with that? It's real. When you have the JOB before you get into real estate or running your own business, you have painted lines, you have a speed limit posted, and you have a car, and you know which direction to go, right? When you go into business for yourself, which of course every agent is, you're no longer in a car. There's no longer roads. You're in an open ocean, and there are no buoys. You're like, crap. Do I know how to read stars? Is that the dipper? I don't know what a dipper is, right? Kind of thing, right? You have no guidance until you find guidance. So you find the currents, you find the wind, whatever it works for you, right? But we have to understand that it is a lot of responsibility, And I one time I quoted, with great power comes, great responsibility, and I gave a quote to Spider-Man for that, and I got a comment saying Jesus said it first. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I really didn't know. I really didn't know that. I always thought it was a comic book reference, but I guess it's even in the Bible, to do that. So I say all this to say, we just need to start looking at this differently and really focusing on restoring those parts of ourselves. Do the things that you guys have said. Find that little dose of dopamine. Not just in business but in life. Find the time to enjoy yourself, because it's not a dirty thing to do. When you go rollerblading at night, or when you read your book, or when you spend time with the family, whatever it is that makes you your most joyful self, that really is a reinvestment into your business, because now your eyes are brighter, you feel better, and you are that 5-star version of yourself, and that translates into your business day to day with every impression you make on them. So agents, if you're watching this one, I know a lot of you are now, so good job to both of you for getting this thing going. You got to start doing that. You got to focus on restoring more and finding that time. It's not about the amount of time you work, throughout the day, or that you're on the clock. It's what you really do with that, right? That's so important. And to those unproductive days, those hit hard. So I was diagnosed with severe depression. I don't even say anxiety anymore, because hello, it's 2023. We all have severe anxiety about everything, right? But severe depression, it's a real thing. And I'm going to open it up. I was contemplating suicide at one point. I really was. I always knew that I had my highs and my lows and stuff, but I just thought it was about being in my early 30s, whatever it may be. But then it got much worse, and those thoughts became much more real. And it was flooring, baffling to me, because when you hear about friends, family, unfortunately, or celebrities that commit suicide, you feel bad, but it's an easy thought to say, man, how could they do that? They had so many people that adored them. They had kids. How could they do that? What a weak thing to do. But I'm going to tell you from experience that when you are in that state, when you are contemplating suicide, it's not a weakness thing. It feels it hacks your brain, and it feels like it's the right way to go. It makes sense. It becomes logic to you, and that's when I knew, oh man, I got to try something out, because I was always against the medication. I didn't like the idea of going to therapy, because that made me feel more guilty, because now I was away from my family and about fixing my own self, and I'm blue collar raised, like, get over it, and my parents were always welcoming stuff, but if you can fix it yourself, try to fix it, was my mentality, kind of thing. So I actually went to Cerebral. They're 2-part. They are like they're virtual doctors, so you do get a therapist, and you get to select the qualities and who they are and what they are, and you find the right one, and they'll talk to you about everything. And then if you want, you also get a prescriber, and I chose that route because I said, what, I need to make changes fast. And so I said, listen, prescriber, I'm really not into the idea of this, but I'll at least hear you out about taking medication, because when I was younger, when I was first exposed to depression and stuff in my friends, they zombified out. They became just zombies, and God knows where they are now, kind of thing. And the prescriber's like, you know what, I get you, man, because back in the day, the idea, the philosophy, widespread was, let's start with big dosages and then take it, moonwalk it back, kind of thing. Nowadays, most prescribers will start you like on basically a kid's dosage, and then slowly build up. And yeah, there was the trial and error of trying this one, trying that one, and that did frustrate me, because I was like, are you really a prescriber? Or are you just trying stuff out here? Do you have a pet dispenser? What is this? And once you found the right one, I'm like, oh my God, this is great because it's not that stigma of zombifying you out. I still feel highs, I still feel lows, but those lows don't, engulf me anymore. And yeah, there are episodes where, oh God, no matter what I do, I just sometimes it can be debilitating, but it does come out, and that's the power of it, right? And I always say, I always knew I had stuff in me, ADHD, depression, whatever else I might have. Um, but it's great once you know what you have. It's like being in the woods at night and you hear all these crazy animal noises. You don't know if it's a bear, a possum, a chimpanzee, because hello, I'm in Florida. Who knows what's in our woods, right? Kind of thing, right? You don't know what it is or how to handle it if it comes at you. But once you get diagnosed, once you understand what you have, you know that, all right, so my depression is a bear, right? It's scary and it's very aggressive, but at least I know how to handle it when it comes around and shows its face, kind of thing, right? My ADHD is a squirrel, the raccoon, or whatever animal you want to give it. All right, I know how to handle that one there too when it comes around as well. So I encourage all of you, and again, I emphasize this so much. I would like to say it goes without saying, but I know for sure it doesn't go without saying, especially in real estate where we have to be seen as these positive professional robots. Man, whoever you are, like do your go get checked up. Go talk to people. Cerebral is a great way to go. You can do FaceTime. You can do phone call in case you don't want to look at anybody. You can do it anywhere. It's like Teladoc. So it's helped me tremendously. And I just wanted to bring that up because with the depression, what you said, Bill, about it, unproductive days, and Phil, you talked about this too. Depression and ADHD, in my experience, they trigger one each other really, really well. And it's not like one's a teeter totter; they're both equally weighted. And so it's like throwing, something, just in space. It just keeps on spinning, 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 spinning until it gets stopped. Because my ADHD, and I have 3 different windows with probably 15 tabs open on them on my computer at any given time. So I have that, and then when my ADHD kicks in, I kind of bounce back and I check my email or I'll check Instagram or I'll click open Canva or whatever it is, but I won't really do much on it. And so now I start feeling depressed because it's 2 o'clock and I haven't been productive. And now being productive triggers my depression. And then that just keeps on going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So when you guys are nodding your heads there, so I know that you guys feel this too. What are some of the things that you guys do individually that, kind of help break the pattern, of your ADHD or whatever else you might be living with?
I have 15 tabs open right now, by the way. So one of the things that's really, really helped me is just recognizing that I have it and, just being aware. Okay. And a lot of times it's just having an honest conversation with yourself. Like, okay, well, I know by this time of the day, I'm going to be in this headspace, or after lunch, I'm going to be tired, or whatever the case is. And, just being aware of it and being able to kind of, refocus or get back on the tracks. For anybody that has ever battled with weight or their diet, kind of I got a good friend, been friends with forever. And we make a comment like, oh, well, we got a donut, so we might as well, screw the rest of the day. Eat whatever we want the rest of the day because we already screwed up. And just that snowball effect, and that day becomes 2 days, and it becomes a week. And I'm on probably a 12-year cheat day, and it's a matter of just getting refocused. And it's okay to make those small errors, those small adjustments, and just get back on track, and not allowing the RSD or not allowing the things to fill your get in your headspace and be like, okay, well, I have to let me get back on track. I'll get to that later. One of the things that I'm probably one of the best procrastinators in the world. Just always have been, and I do it very well. And I can avoid and procrastinate probably better than most. But at the end of the day, is it serving me? Is it serving my family? Is it serving my clients and my team in the best way by avoiding or by procrastinating? on some of these things. And so it's just, going back to compartmentalizing and being able to, okay, this goes in this file. Let me, this has to be done. And going back on the productivity or being productive. I can't tell you how many times that day, and I've had one thing I wanted to do that day, never got done. He's like, all I want to do today is get this done. Finally, a week later, I get it done. Or I lose the opportunity because the opportunity is passed. Because I didn't take care of that one thing I wanted to do, and whether it be squirrels or flowers or flies or whatever, phone calls. It's just like, oh yeah, it's just it can be debilitating. Debilitating. Wow, that's even wrong too. So you get in these spaces where you're like, oh, I can't even talk. But it's just a matter of being aware of it and just taking action. I mean, the best thing you can ever do in any situation is take action, and let the dust settle where it settles, and pick up the pieces from there.
It's one thing that I found that's helped me out in that way, so because I do relate to you and having that. I know that I procrastinate, and I think three of us, we could own that within ourselves. I'll start probably 4 or 5 important things at once because I know that I'm going to procrastinate at something. I know myself that well, for sure I will. And instead of working on one project and then bouncing to, the doom scroll on Instagram or, playing Pokemon Go or whatever the heck it is, right? I bounce to another task, but guess what? It's something I'm still going to get done. And I'll work on that, and then it'll kick in and I'll bounce to something else. And again, whatever. So that way it still keeps moving things forward. And then just as a natural flow, one catches your attention more. And, oh, great, I got that thing done, and now I feel productive. But I also, along those big things, I put really, really small, obvious things on my checklist as well. So I'll have coffee on my checklist at least 3 times a day. I'll have water on there 5 times. I'll have the restaurant on there twice. So no matter what state I'm in, I am still going to be able to cross something off my list and little dopamine dose right there, right? I'm like, all right, so I'm not a complete piece of crap. At least I drink coffee and got some water today. You go, Daniel. You stay hydrated, you queen, right? Whatever you want to say, right? But it feels good. It feels good when you do that. And, maybe that's one little thing there too. And one thing that's also helped me as well is dedicating the day to somebody else. And so before I put my feet down on the ground, before I even touch my phone, I dedicate the day to somebody that I care about. And the trick with this, though, it's never, ever, ever allowed to be yourself because, of course, you'll let yourself down before you let somebody else down, right? And I first found this when, a few years ago, I was actually a professional ultra marathon runner. I had the shoe sponsor, the nutrition sponsor. I got paid to do events and stuff. It was great. And I was attempting my very, very, very first 50 miler on foot. And I was in the best shape of my life. And I towed the line and, I was ready to go. And I wound up on my back at like mile 30 something, probably 32, 34, whatever it was. And that was the very first time I did not finish a race, and I was pissed off. But looking back at it, the only reason I wanted to do it that day is because I could call myself, I'm an ultra marathon runner, right? Next year rolls around, same course, I'm sadistic like that, so I wanted to put myself through the same punishment. So I tried it again. I'm a little less in shape, but I still have my sponsorships and still fit to do this. But the trick was that I happen to know 50 people. Now, most of these people, were current and still in my life. Some had, moved on, some had passed on, kind of thing. But I still dedicated each mile to one of them. And of course, then put my most important people at the last few miles, right? And so those that made sense for me to call, I'm like, hey, Phil and Bill, I'm dedicating miles 17 and 18 to you guys. I'm doing this crazy thing. I'm running 50 miles this weekend, but thanks for being a part of my life and earning your spot on my list. I just, I hope to, talk to you guys on Monday with some success. Now I know that you guys know that I'm doing this, so it's a little accountable. And even though you guys wouldn't kick me off this podcast, you wouldn't stop being my friends if I didn't make it to your miles, I would feel like I was letting you guys down. And so I did that, and I can't tell. I finished it. I finished the race. I completed it that day, but I couldn't tell you what the last 20-something miles were like. I mean, it was, as soon as I finished, it was seriously like drinking Jaeger on an empty stomach in a hot environment all weekend long without eating. That's what it felt like. I just felt like I wanted to die. Now, granted, for disclaimer, I have never done that. I'm a bourbon guy, right? So, I'm not into that. But it was very
I may have
helpful
done that.
because there you go. So it was very, very helpful. And that's something I practice every day, and I encourage people to try too. Before you put your feet down, dedicate the day to somebody. You don't have to have 365 different individuals in your life, but just try it out. So it could be the same 10. You don't even have to tell them. But when you attach that to a goal, saying, you know what, I'm going to do my best today. I'm trying to gain muscle, lose fat, try to do X amount of things for my real estate career. When the, chatter starts to come into your head saying, oh, you're tired, Dan, you should just go home and do it tomorrow. I'm not going to let, Adley, my daughter, down, who I dedicated the day to. So that's something that's helped me a lot with my depression, my ADHD, and keeping the thing going. With, again, those little micro goals, too, that you can cross off no matter what kind of day you're having.
Yeah.
So a quick question. How long is an ultra marathon?
So it's anything that's technically over 26.2 miles. So you'll see some people say that, ultra marathon is a 50K, which is only like 30 so miles. You can do that typically if you're doing a marathon, but you'll see most ultras start at 50 miles. They go up to 100 miles. It's really endless. You hear people that are running across the country in ultra marathon races, around the world. It just goes on forever and ever and ever.
The reason I ask is because you said the most important people were at the end, and you put Phil and I at 17 and 18. So I'm taking note of that.
I am now off the podcast. No, you guys were, if I do this again, you'll at least be in the high 40s. All right, the mid 40s.
We'll be 19 and 20.
Dan,
I've got
I
two
would prefer to be
daughters,
number
my mom
one.
and dad. I've got a couple cats as well. So they.
I'd be okay with being mile number one. That way, you didn't let me down, no matter what.
There we go. I like that idea. I like that. I would never let my man feel down.
Go back on that, kind of piggyback off that. One thing I found that did help me, and it's something I want to get back to is just, stacking the wins and not really labeling or having a box for what a win is. But just keeping it simple. Man, I woke up today. That's always a win.
Boom.
And as benevolent as it sounds, it's so true, because if we don't wake up, that's terrible for a lot of people in your family, in your world. But I woke up. Hey, I did this. By the time I get to the office, I try to have anywhere from a half a dozen to a dozen wins I've done, that I've won that day. So when I do get that rejection or that no, I'm still at 12 wins to 1 loss. I still have a great record. And and what that does for me, it propels me to move forward, to get more wins and to claim them, and keep moving up that win ladder, so to speak. And because the goal is, I want to win the morning, I want to win the afternoon, I want to win the day. And when I go home, probably, I'm sure you guys have some of the same issues or problems. It's very hard to be present. And it's one of my goals is to be more intentional and be present where I'm at. And it's very difficult to do sometimes with, this thing in my head going 4,000 different directions, and, being in a conversation and be thinking about 12 different things, and, still hearing conversation and conversing back and forth, but, oh, hey, did I close that cap on the whatever in the fridge? I don't know. But it's just, stacking those wins and moving forward. And, you stack one day, stack another day. That way, out of 5 days, if you have 4 winning days and 1 lost day, it's still good. You're still had a great week. And, when you look back at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, like, wow, look what we accomplished by stacking these wins. And just, no matter how small they are, and sometimes the smaller the better, because it helps put a great foundation for that win. Like, okay, when you get a big win, it's great, but hey, I've already got 10 wins. So now it just adds to it, and let's keep adding to those wins. And that's something that helped me for, a long time. And, it's now that we're talking about it, it's, I got to remember, not to lose focus on that. And tomorrow morning, start counting my wins again, and just, set the day up for success mentally. Not just planning the day out and doing that, but just, getting, and I say it to agents all the time, this business sales is 99% mindset. The other parts are going to be consistency and follow up. Those three things, if you do and do them halfway decent, you're going to be better than most, in my opinion.
I
And
agree
with
with
those
you.
wins,
Okay.
that's a great thing. We had talked about this. I need to remember to do it. It's the first thing, but to physically write them down, because we only have like 3 slots of memory, and it's just going to keep getting replaced by stuff. So if you write it down, it doesn't matter what it says. It could be, I woke up, I drank 2 cups of water, I did this. Oh, I forgot to do this. To physically just see that your win list is physically bigger, or else you're going to just get stuck in that loss column all the time. Even if that win column is 5 times as long, if it's not written down, like, I just need to do it where I can just glance over and just see, oh, okay, 10 wins, 2 losses, winning record, can't complain about that. Maybe I'll make the playoffs, and just to see it. Like, my board in my office is brightly colored. If it's pink, it's a buyer. If it's neon blue, it's a listing, and they move all around because I just need to glance over and say, okay, I'm doing a lot better. Like, you have those days where you're like, oh man, I haven't written a contract in like 3 weeks, but I can look over and be like, I've got 9 things over here under contract. I'll take a week loss because I can see it.
And it's learning from those too, realizing, oh, hey, I did have a bad week, but it's okay to move forward because I can't afford to have 2 bad weeks. And getting back in those wins, and I think part of the issue for me on those, when you start getting those losses, you totally even you don't even let any wins in. Like, there's no room for wins, only losses come in now. That's all it's all I'm subconsciously focused on, because Murphy's Law. If it's going to happen, it's it's bad. It's going to be bad. It's going to happen to me, and it's getting out of that headspace and creating those wins. Dan, you were going to say something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, sir.
No, man, that was perfect. That was perfectly said, perfectly timed. It's important, I think, to stack the wins that's happening, inside. But I know for, experience, it's really easy to start feeling the pressure from the outside. All the universe is against me, nothing's going my way and stuff, right? And again, having like the, rejection, triggers to that, those hurt more. And I forget who said this, but it was some TED talk to listen to. I like, listen to those on the drive and stuff. And they were talking about how many things have to go right for that one little thing that you only hang on to that goes wrong. So we all, if we all drink coffee, we all have our coffee preferences, and there's like 45 different kinds of milks now these days, so everyone has their own specific kind of thing that they want to get. So your oat milk latte, 2 sugars, half cap, whatever it is. If that barista says, oh, Bill, I'm so sorry, we're out of rice milk, I'm so sorry. I was like, damn it, no, kind of thing. And now he's feeling like the universe is against him. But let's think about this, right? For that cup of coffee to even be close to getting to you, millions of things on a global level had to happen correctly, right? So the weather patterns in Costa Rica where those beans were grown had to be spot on, right? And the farmers and everyone that's working on that, that coffee plant, thing, they had to be healthy and good to be able to harvest the beans. And then the trade, routes, the packing the trucks and stuff had to work correctly, and the potholes had to be paved by the cities and towns for those trucks to not blow a tire on the way there, and all of these crazy things had to happen for you to be able to at least have something close to what you wanted. And that, to me, thinking about that, there's a billion things that are happening in the favors for all of us, and yeah, some things may not have the type of oat milk that you want or whatever it is, but we have to not let that get to us. And I have a hard time saying have to not to, because there's something I hate hearing the word no. I just recently, had I mentioned I'm on tour. I'm doing this crazy thing, and we have this awesome opportunity through one of my preferred lenders, my sole lender. Like I only work with one down here in Orlando. They're called Empire Financial, and they have it aligned to where they're flying like 70 agents for free up to Detroit while I'll be speaking. That's like airfare, hotel, all this crazy stuff. Like it's all expense paid. And I was super psyched on it. And it got to the point where they said like, okay, you can do 60 people or 120 at the beginning of this. I'm like, all right, well, let's just be cool and just make it 60. And the results, of course, were overwhelming. That everybody wanted it. Awesome people wanted to be a part of this. And so I went back to them like, hey, we do 120, and it was the people that were organizing this were saying, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have enough room for this now. We're kind of overbooked. I'm like, listen, there has to be a way. Like I will, I will sleep on, on the floor, in the lobby. So that's one hotel room, that it can be, consolidated there. I will, if we have other classes happening, I will gladly do my event and I will go speak for free at the other ones. If we can combine them, can we do it in this venue? Can we just get creative? Because one of my triggers is the lack of critical thinking. Not to mention this is not that they're not lacking that, but in my day to day, that's one thing that I know that kind of gets me going. It's like the metaphor, the analogy or the little scene here is, if you go to a place and they don't have chocolate milk on the menu, but they have, chocolate syrup on a sundae and they have, milk also, chocolate milk can be made, right? But so many places are like, no, we don't have it on the menu, so I can't, you can have it. That just, that gets me going crazy. Now, I don't turn angry or so, but I really just try to speak to them like they're human. Like, listen, I know you've got, you're not the owner of this place. I get that, and that's cool. And it is kind of crazy I'm asking you to do this, but just from human to human, do you think we could figure something out here? I want you to have an awesome day. And I would really love to have an awesome day too. And, that glass of chocolate milk would really make it awesome. And it's rewarding when people stop and think and like, you know what, actually, hold on, I got you real quick. And I love it when that works out, not because I'm getting the yes, it's because in my mind, I'm helping someone kind of think about things differently. It seems like, again, so much lack of creativity is out there, but it's awesome when it starts to show up and when you're able to kind of help spark that within them. You know what I'm saying? So, that's I don't know how I got on the subject. I have to also mention too, I've had 7 concussions in my life, so that also plays a part in my forgetfulness sometimes. But yeah, my name is Dan Pacheco and I have ADHD.
Welcome.
So did they up it to 120?
So they met me in the middle and we're doing 80 now. So that was perfect because I was 180 or 120 would have been a stretch. I had like 85 at the time. So saying 5, hey guys, I'll give you priority for the next go around. No problems at all. So they met in the middle. And I mean, just to give Empire, that was with UWM, who Empire works out with, that's doing this whole crazy all expense paid trip. But Empire, I got to give a huge shout out to them because they have a kind of a different cast of people working for them. So like the owner of Empire is also neurodivergent too. The leadership, they come from different backgrounds, not in the industry, former Disney, high level creatives and stuff like that. And it really kind of throws a polite middle finger to the common lender, because we all know a lot of them, and there's a lot of awesome ones out there too, but there's also a lot of the ones that kind of live up to that stigma of being kind of that that kind of putting the douche in fiduciary, so to speak. And you love that one, right?
I'm stealing that.
So they're so different, and they're themed differently. I'm actually using one of their sets right now. This is going to be a set for one of the new podcasts called The Walking Dead. So this is in their office. It's really cool. So I just love people that think creatively and differently, and also open space too, because they also know what I have, and they were like, they weren't like, hey Dan, are you one of those neurodivergent guys? I talk about it openly because I trust them, and they're receptive to it, and we work really, really well together. So I hope that lets people know that they don't have to be the classic broker, the classic lender, the classic whatever. It's time to kind of hit refresh and update, and let's look in ourselves, let's look within our businesses and say, what, does this feel good? Was this even a really good ROI for me? If it was, did I enjoy doing it? Did I have to sacrifice who I am or my joy or whatever it was to do this thing? If it didn't feel comfy, and again, I'm going to be proud to say that if it didn't feel comfy, if it didn't give you that amazing, life-changing ROI, toss it out. Just toss it out and find, replace it with something that does feel really, really good. Because this day and age, it's wonderful, especially in real estate. Agents are being chosen because of their meme game. Think about that, right? An agent posts a funny meme and someone picks them because they like that and they laughed at it. That happens. That happens now. So I say that again to encourage the agents that are out there watching this or anyone watching this. Let's just update who we are. I'm a firm believer, and I know we're getting probably to the end of this here, so I'll wrap it up. But I'm a firm believer that if you care so much about your industry to where you never want to see it change, you want to see it stay the same as it is, then you should buy the jersey and the popcorn and sit in the stands because you're a fan of it. If you're someone that deeply cares about your industry, it is your responsibility to break it up, mess it up, and redefine it and rebuild it every single day because it needs to be done.
And that falls into creating something.
That's a great way to bookend it right there, man. To create something. To challenge yourself to create something. How about that?
Yeah. So before we wrap this up here, I'm going to call out my friend Ramsey because he put 2 comments earlier and I've got to bust his balls on this. So first he said this, which I think is very fitting because we need that excitement to do anything. So he needs to figure out how to learn. He only learns when he's having fun, which he followed up with, I'm watching this right now and I'm doing 132 different things, which means that we were not fun enough for Ramsey this time. So we really need to up our game on this. So if he's still watching, I love you, Ramsey. Just had to call you out. If you're not watching, I'm sending this to you.
We'll try to up it up next time.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point to kind of wrap this. Like, bring it all together is that what we do needs to be exciting to us, and that's what Dan does. He helps people find what is exciting to you on how you can harness that to grow. So if you guys want to get in touch with Dan, and this nice little scrolling thing on the bottom.
Look at that. That's my information right there, scrolling right now in front of me. Wow.
Yeah.
Like Hollywood.
So
amazing.
I'll leave that up for a second. I'm going to also put this down in the description. If you have any questions for myself, Phil, Dan, I'm going to have all of our contact information below. I wanted to have something ready for like a email newsletter to go out, just like every couple of weeks, like quick tip, but I got distracted and didn't get that done yet. So raise your hand if you're surprised.
Well, whatever. We first started talking about this, and I love the idea. I love, the opportunity to be able to connect with some other agents and other people in the industry, and hopefully we can help some people, and hopefully they can bring some things to us to help us. I mean, it's too many times I know in my experience, it's such a battlefield. And yeah, I think I mentioned this to you last week. And, we're going through a transaction, and yes, I'm going to do the best for my client, and you're going to do the best for your client. But once we get past all negotiations, are we on the same team? Are we on the closing team? Let's get this thing closed as long as everyone's already happy, and we can all work together and get along and be happy, treat other people like you want to be treated. It's just one of those things. It's like, it's so much more enjoyable, going to a client like, oh, here's, multiple offers. Anybody had any multiple offers over the past couple of years? It's like, oh, hey, man, this agent here, they are on point. I know that I can call it at any time. They're going to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, because I've done deals with them before, and it's always smooth as ice. Because I've had to have the conversation like, here's the offers, and what do you think? And I give them my honest opinion, like, that ain't, it's not going to be fun. We'll probably still close, but there'll be some headaches and some hiccups along the way, and that's just the way it is with that agent. And and I don't like, I feel like I have to disclose it because that's my experience, and they asked me. But it's like, I don't, much rather, we're all in this together. It's a wonderful industry, and we're in the news all the time. I mean, every day they talk about us. Interest rates are what, 8% or whatever. Yada yada yada. The housing industry, we're going to crash, or it's booming, whatever. They're always talking about us. But I think this. I love this kind of safe space that we're creating to be able to harness our superpowers with the ADHD and other things that come along with it, and just help other people. And also, I'm always looking for nuggets and things. One of the things somebody made a comment, you have a million ideas and none of, never get to any of them. I get it. I get 110%. Not only that is like I'm a knowledge junkie, but when it comes to applying it, not so much. Hey, it got to here, and that's where it stopped. And but now knowing why that happens, recognize that, okay, look, this has to go all the way through. This has to get followed through with all the way for my end result to be what I want it to be. So, I mean, it's been a great time so far. Unfortunately, I guess Ramsey didn't enjoy it as much as we did, but maybe he'll,
Hey, we made the top 132. That's a big deal. We made the top 132.
Yes,
that's like being mile 17.
Well,
Okay,
I was one on 132, so I'm good.
Oh man, I had a really good time with you guys. I think this is a great. Hopefully, I had a wonderful time. I think this is going to be a really big deal for a lot of people. Just seeing the comments pop up, it's about that. When you realize that you're not alone, when you realize that there's other people out there that share qualities that you also share. That goes a lot for a lot of people. And I just I know a lot of words. I have an extensive, vernacular vocabulary, but I just going to use these two right here. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this, because it's going to be very profound for a lot of people. And this is an important thing, and you guys are amazing for this. I'm going to feel very, very welcome.
No, I think it's great to kick off our first one. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being supportive to all of us, and again to everyone who is here. You're not alone. We're all kind of going through this and learning and all of that together. So every second Tuesday of the month, we're doing this at 2:00. We're going to have different people on, tackle different subjects. If there's anything that you want us to talk about or talk to, let us know down in the comments. Now I'm going to do my little YouTube thing, and don't forget to like and subscribe this video and share it with all of your neurodivergent friends so that they can watch it too. And let's get this out there to the masses. Thank you so much, everyone. Go destroy the end of your day, and hopefully we didn't distract you too much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Ciao.